So my name's Nick Clarke. I'm from Alpine, Utah. My involvement in here is that I've grown up here. I have family property and a family cabin up by Silver Lake Flat. I have been really disappointed in the fact that I feel like I'm pretty dialed into what's going on in terms of public land development. I've read the Mountain Accord stuff, and I still haven't heard anything about this from any of the official sources. I've only word of mouth, and I've been really disappointed in the response that we've gotten from the Forest Service and the way that this has been handled. Well, and was AFCVision included in any of the Mountain Accord proposals?
No.
I don't think that they were. It was all in the.
This is part of the reason I started to bark.
A lot of the major stakeholders, like the mayors in the area, Mayor of Alpine, the different interest groups in Utah County haven't really heard about this. I consider myself someone who's pretty well informed on what's happening with public lands issues here in the area, and that I hadn't heard anything about it, having read the Mountain Accord proposals and whatnot.
Back in the 80s, I went to a Lehigh County public meeting when Dick Bass was starting to purchase little land pieces here and there. This started going on in the mid-80s. Buying this, no one knew. Well, all of a sudden, there was a thing in the paper, back in the days when everybody had a paper, and, there's a meeting about snowbird coming into Mineral Basin, and I'm like, no. So it was me, a couple Forest Service employees, and a couple snowbird employees, or Dick Bass himself and his son. And back then, the public wasn't voicing their opinion and saying no. So we basically gave snowbird the key. Come on in. Here's the key. So time goes on, they get a couple lifts, and all of a sudden they get the tunnel and da-da-da-da-da. Well, in the meantime, they're buying up more little pieces. Then there's this Mountain Accord thing that no one really knows about in Utah County. If you take the Salt Lake paper, you hear about it. But some of us, if we have kids in sports, we take the Herald, because I can't look at the Tribune and see anything about Utah County. So us Utah County people are still left in the dark because we're really not paying attention to what's going on up there. Mountain Accord, they have this thing on the table, and basically the way Save Our Canyons, they have good, bad, and ugly about Mountain Accord blueprint. Bad, Snowbird is negotiating a land exchange with the U.S. Forest Service for areas in Utah County. These lands would surely be developed by Snowbird as they edge towards securing a second base in Utah County. But what's awesome about it is, as part of that same land exchange, Snowbird and Forest Service, parts of Mount Superior, Flagstaff Mountain, plus holdings in White Pines and Day Fork would be permanently protected from future roller coaster, condo development, and ski area expansion. On our website, there was a 50-minute long podcast with Mountain Accord, the guy from Black Diamond, I think Save Our Canyon, Lainey Jones, the lady that's over Mountain Accord. She said, basically, I think almost word for word, we didn't want to include Utah County because we didn't want to bite off more than we can chew. So there you go. But in order to save White Pine and Mount Superior, Snowbird will give us this, and you can have this. Well, this down here is in Utah County.
Andrew McLean is something of a prominent activist in Wasatch preservation in Park City, and he was writing about Ski Link and the One Utah initiative, and he was quoting another one of his friends who's saying, the Wasatch Range is a very small, very limited range near to a really large population center. It's very unique in that it's a very small range, but it gets an incredible amount of use in a way that you don't really see in Boulder. You don't really see it in Montana. Maybe a little bit in Tahoe in California, but the Wasatch is a very unique place, and it has a lot of demands. 50, 60 years ago, we all, as the public, decided, okay, we're going to give up really the vast majority of the high quality, upper elevation, north facing, steep slopes to private enterprise for a ski industry, which has really driven the economy here, is what we're known for internationally. But we made that compromise. We made a compromise to give up a huge swath of the highest quality land in the Wasatch. And now, 50 years later, we've got the same parties coming back to the table saying, hey, we need to compromise. The there needs to be more development. We need to link up all these ski resorts. We got to compromise. And the Wasatch hasn't grown at all in 50 years. And unfortunately, the geological time frame is not going to permit the Wasatch to grow anymore for anything that's relevant to us. And so we've made our compromise. We don't need to compromise anymore. The public has given up a lot of the best land, and we need to preserve what we've got still. The fact of the matter is the AF Canyon is really one of the only really close mixed-use canyons in the Wasatch that is still accessible to people of equestrians, bicyclists, skiers, backcountry skiers, snowmobilers, four-wheelers, ATVers. You can't do that in Little Cottonwood Canyon. You can really just barely do it in Big Cottonwood Canyon. I don't think you can do it in Mill Creek. Parley's Canyon, it has a freeway going through it. It's just, Provo Canyon's got it a little bit, but Provo Canyon is also just a whole nother deal. And so it's really important to have that mixed use with our public lands. And I think it really makes a lot of sense to say we've already given up a lot of the land already for private use and restricted rights as the public, and we don't need to continue to do that. We really need to strike a balance, and we've kind of already struck a balance. We've got a healthy ski industry. We've got a lot of resorts that have some of the best terrain in the world. And what's to be gained, as a skier from having them spill over into this canyon is just, it's not worth the price. It's not worth the price at all. I think it's really important that we, recognize that 50 years ago the public gave up, the vast majority of the high quality upper elevation north-facing slopes, and those compromises that all the parties are coming to the table saying, hey, we need more compromise. We need to have more access to the Wasatch. The Wasatch hasn't gotten any bigger. We've made our compromise. We need to have a nice balance of mixed use. So I really think that the compromise has been made, and we should keep AF Canyon in the state that it is now, and let that development, if we want more development to happen more in the Tri-Canyon area. So I'm really disappointed by the fact that this development has kind of gone on behind closed doors. There's not a whole lot of discussion that I've been able to, I'd heard about independently, and I think it'd be really good to have someone like Doug Fabrizio or someone over at the KUER news desk to talk about this and get a little bit more information on both sides about what's going on here with this development and these recent developments with Mountain Accord and American Fork Vision. Go to KSL, let's go to Deseret News and Salt Lake Tribune, let's have a discussion about what's going on here so that all the stakeholders can be involved.